We on? Okay.
Yeah.
Welcome back to us and everybody else. We've been away for several weeks, and it was quite an eventful trip. And hopefully, sometime I'll be able to download and feel like downloading the experience that we had. But it was a very successful trip for my wife and my family and myself. So we're really happy to be back here to share the Go Show with you. Tonight's Go Show is from, again, we're reading the lecture from Teachings for Victory, Volume 3. And the Go Show tonight is found on Volume 1 of the Writings of Nichiren Daishonin on page 1005. It's the letter to the lay priest Nakaoki. And I at first I thought maybe I'd never read this Go Show before, but then actually I found it's all highlighted. I've definitely read the whole thing. So let me go ahead and start by reading the Go Show.
Should we read the background first?
We'll read the background first.
All right.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so the background to letter to the lay priest Nakaoki, which is on page 1009. It says, this letter was written at Minobu to the lay priest Nakaoki and his wife, believers who lived at Nakaoki on the island of Sado. Though the present work is traditionally titled Letter to the Lay Priest Nakaoki, it is addressed to Nakaoki's wife. It would seem that Nichiren Daishonin wrote it for both of them when Nakaoki came to visit him at Minobu. Nakaoki's father, the lay priest Nakaoki no Jiro, had already passed away when this letter was written. Despite his own long-standing faith in Nimbutsu, he had apparently embraced the Daishonin's teachings when they met during his exile and had protected him during his stay on the island. Later, one of his sons, the Nakaoki of this letter, also became the Daishonin's follower along with his wife. After the Daishonin was pardoned and went to live at Minobu, the young Nakaoki repeatedly made the journey from Sado to see him and bring him offerings. In the beginning of this letter, the Daishonin describes how Buddhism was first introduced to Japan and how erroneous teachings such as those of the Nimbutsu and True Word have spread throughout the country. Because the Daishonin pointed out the errors of the various schools, he met with repeated persecutions, culminating in an abortive attempt to behead him at Tatsunokuchi and his subsequent exile to Sado Island. He continues, however, that he alone has made clear the underlying cause of recent disasters affecting the nation, urging people to abandon mistaken teachings and instead chant the Daimoku of the Lotus Sutra, Nam-myoho Renge-kyo. Therefore, he is the most loyal subject in all of Japan, the Daishonin declares himself to be. Though the people may despise him and authorities persecute him, because he embraces the Lotus Sutra, which all Buddhists cherish, he is certain to be protected. In conclusion, the Daishonin praises the faith of the Nakaokis in supporting the votary of the Lotus Sutra and assures them of great blessings in this life and in life to come. Okay, so going back to page 1005. He says, I have received the 1,000 coins that you sent me, and respectfully reported it in the presence of the Lotus Sutra of the Wonderful Law. The country of Japan is located in Jampadvipa to the south of Mount Sumeru. Jampadvipa measures 7,000 yojanas in both length and breadth. It is there, in it there are 84,000 countries, namely the 5 regions of India, 16 great states, 500 middle-sized states, and 10,000 small states, as well as countless smaller states scattered about like grains of millet and islands like particles of dust. All of these lands lie in the great ocean like fallen leaves floating here and there on a pond. Our country of Japan is a small island in the great sea. It was once so small that it would disappear from sight when the tide rose, becoming barely visible only when the tide ebbed, until the two deities enlarged it to its present size. Its first human ruler was a great emperor named Jimmu. For some 30 reigns after him, neither a Buddha nor sutras nor priests existed in this country, only ordinary people and gods. Because there was no Buddhism, the people neither knew of hell nor aspired to the Pure Land. Even when death parted them from their parents or siblings, they had no idea what would become of the deceased. They must have thought of death or something like the vanishing of dew or like the setting of the sun and moon. Then, during the reign of the 30th ruler, the great emperor Kime, King Seongmyeong of Pakche, Korea, a state northwest of Japan, sent to this country a gilded bronze image of Shakyamuni Buddha. a set of sutras expounded by that Buddha, and several priests who were to read them to the people. However, the Buddha was a statue and not a living person, and the sutras bore no resemblance to non-Buddhist writings. The priests spoke, but no one could understand what they preached. Moreover, their appearance was neither that of men nor that of women. For all these reasons, the people were doubtful and dismayed. The ministers of the left and the right met in the emperor's presence and discussed the matter from various angles. The opinion prevailed that Buddhism should not be adopted, so the statue of the Buddha was discarded and the priests were imprisoned. Then, on the 15th day of the second month in the second year of Emperor Bidatsu's reign, Prince Shotoku, son of Emperor Yomei, faced east and chanted Namu Shakyamuni Buddha, whereupon the Buddha's relics materialized in his hand. In the 6th year of the Emperor Bidatsu's reign, the prince read and recited the Lotus Sutra. Since then, more than 7 centuries have passed, and more than 60 emperors have reigned, and Buddhism has gradually spread throughout Japan. Among the 66 provinces and the 2 islands, there is no place where it is not reached. In every province, every district, and every town, village, and hamlet, Buddhist halls, pagodas, and temples have been built, and Buddhism now dwells in 171,037 places. Persons of wisdom as brilliant as the sun and moon have spread Buddhism in generation after generation, and worthies who shine like the myriad stars fill every province. For their own sakes, they practice the true word doctrines, the wisdom sutras, or the benevolent king sutra, or chant the name of Amida Buddha, or believe in Bodhisattva perceiver of the world sounds, Bodhisattva earth repository, or the 3,000 Buddhas, or read and recite the Lotus Sutra. But when they encourage the practice of ignorant priests and lay people, they merely say, just chant Namu Amida Butsu. Suppose a woman has a child. If the child falls into a moat or a river, or if it is lonely, it will cry, "Mother, mother!" Hearing this, the mother will never fail to set everything else aside and come to her child's aid. The same holds true with Amida Buddha. We are infants, and he is our mother. So if you fall into the pit of hell or the moat of hungry spirits, just chant Namu Amida Butsu, and he will never fail to come save you, just as an echo follows a sound. This is what these men of wisdom have always taught. So he wasn't saying that as a declarative of his understanding or teaching. He was qualifying what the prevalent thought of the day was and what the priests and the religious authorities were telling everybody. Just chant to Amida. He'll fix everything. Just call out to him. He'll take care of you. He says, therefore, one country. This is what these men of wisdom have always taught. Therefore, our country of Japan has long since followed the custom of chanting that phrase. Now, I am neither a resident of the capital, the center of the country, nor the son of a general of on the frontiers. I am merely the son of a commoner from a remote province. But I chant Nam-myoho Renge-kyo, which not a single person in Japan has ever chanted during the past more than 700 years. Moreover, I have declared that to chant the name of Amida Buddha, as people do, revering him as they would their parents, the sun and the moon, or their lords, feeling as though they had found a ship on which to make a crossing, water when they were thirsty, or food when they were hungry, creates the karma. Moreover, I have declared that to chant the name of Amida Buddha creates the karma that will cause them to fall into the hell of incessant suffering. They were therefore as startled and resentful as if stones had been cooked in with their food, as if their horse had stumbled over a rock and bolted, as if a gale had begun to blow while they were crossing a body of water, as if a great fire had broken out in a populated area, as if they had suddenly been attacked by an enemy, or as if a courtesan had become an emperor's consort. However, for 27 years, from the 28th day of the 4th month in the 5th year of Kincho, 1253, until now, the 11th month of the 2nd year of Koan, 1279, I have not once retreated, but have continued to speak out all the more strongly, just as the moon waxes or the tides rise. At first, when I alone chanted the Daimoku, those who saw me, met me, or heard me, covered their ears, glared at me with furious eyes, contorted their mouths, clenched their fists and ground their teeth. Even my parents, brothers, teachers, and friends became my enemies. Then the steward and the lord of the manor where I lived turned against me. Later, the whole province was in an uproar, and eventually the entire populace grew alarmed. Meanwhile, some people began to chant Nam-myoho Renge-kyo, either to mimic me or to mock me, or seemingly out of faith, or seemingly to disparage me. Now 1/10 of the people in Japan chant only Nam-myoho Renge-kyo. The remaining 9/10 are those who chant both the Daimoku and Amida Buddha's name, those who are wavering between the two, and those who chant only the Nimbutsu. People of this last group revile me as though I were an enemy of their parents or their lord, or a sworn foe from a past existence. Heads of villages, districts, and provinces hate me as though I were a traitor. As I continued to proclaim my teachings in this way, I was driven out of place after place, forced to move on throughout Japan like a log adrift on the sea at the wind's mercy, or like a tiny feather that soars high into the sky and then hovers about, now rising, now falling. At times I was struck, arrested, wounded, or exiled far away. At times my disciples were killed, or I myself was banished. Then on the 12th day of the 9th month in the 8th year of Brine, 1271, I incurred the wrath of the government and was subsequently exiled to the northern island province of Sado. Though I had never violated the secular laws, even in the slightest, the authorities accused me, saying, "This priest has gone so far as to This priest has gone so far as to declare that the lay priests of Saimyoji and Gorakuji have fallen into hell. He is worse than a traitor. They were about to behead me at a place called Tatsunokuchi in Kamakura in Sagami province, but then they apparently reconsidered, thinking, 'True, this crime is indeed heinous, but he is a votary of the Lotus Sutra nonetheless. If we kill him rashly, there is no telling what disaster might befall us. On the other hand, if we leave him on a remote island, he will surely perish of some cause or another. Not only is he hated by the ruler, but the common people all regard him as they would an enemy of their parents. He will probably be killed or die of hunger, either on his way to Sado or after he has arrived there.' Thus they decided to dispose of me in this way. However, possibly due to the protection of the Lotus Sutra and the 10 demon daughters, or perhaps because the heavenly gods realized my innocence, and although many of the islanders hated me, there was an old man called the lay priest Nakaoki no Jiro, who befriended me. He was as wise as he was advanced in years, and he enjoyed robust health and commanded the esteem of the local people. Probably because this venerable man said of me, 'This priest can be no ordinary person.' His sons did not strongly resent me. Since most of the other people were in the service of the retainers of the Nakaoki family, they too made no attempt to harm me on their own authority and carefully obeyed the government's instructions. Though water may be muddy, it will again become clear. Though the moon may hide the clouds, it will surely reappear. Similarly, in time, my innocence became apparent, and my predictions proved not to have been in vain. Perhaps on that account, although the members of the Hojo family and the influential lords insisted that I should not be pardoned, I was finally released from my sentence of exile at the sole decision of the lord of the province of Sagami and returned to Kamakura. I, Nichiren, am the most loyal subject in all of Japan. I do not believe that there has ever been, nor ever will be, anyone who can equal me in this regard. The reason I say so is as follows. When the great earthquake struck during the Shoka era, and the huge comet appeared in the first year of Brunei, a number of wise persons, both Buddhists and non-Buddhists, performed divinations, but they could neither determine the causes of these disasters nor foretell what was to come. As for me, I secluded myself in a scripture library, and after pondering the matters based on the Buddhist teachings, I concluded that because the people revere the priests of provisional Mahayana and Hinayana teachings, such as the true word Zen, Nimbutsu, and precepts, and make light of the Lotus Sutra, the heavenly kings Brahma and Shakra would rebuke them by ordering a country in the West to attack Japan. I submitted a written warning to this effect to the lay priest of Saimyoji, now deceased. People of all regions scoffed at it and dismissed it. But 9 years later, in the 5th year of Brunei, an official letter arrived from the great Mongol Empire announcing its intention to attack Japan. Because my predictions had thus come true, the Nembutsu priests, the true word teachers, and others resented me and plotted against my life. To give an analogy, in China, among the concubines of Emperor Shuangtung, there was a beautiful woman known as the Lady of Shangyang Palace. She was the greatest beauty in the empire. The emperor's consort, Yang Kuei-fei, say it again? Yang Kuei-fei, saw her and thought, if she is allowed to serve near the emperor, she will surely steal his favor away from me. So she forged an imperial edict and had the lady's parents and brothers either banished or executed. The lady herself was imprisoned and tortured for no less than 40 years. My own case is similar to this. If Nichiren's writings become widely known, the government will have to ask him to pray for the defeat of the great Mongol Empire. And if Japan should in fact be victorious, he will become the foremost priest in this country. We, on the other hand, will lose our influence and prestige. So thinking, perhaps, the priests of the other schools brought false charges against me. Unaware of their motives, the regent believed their words and is now about to bring the nation to ruin. In a similar way, the second emperor of the Qin dynasty of China, ingratiated by Qiao Huo's slanderous tongue, had Li Su executed and later himself perished at the hands of Qiao Huo. And the emperor of Ingyi, prompted by the slanderous words of the minister Fujiwara no Tokihira, banished the minister Sagawaru no Muchizane. Afterward, the emperor fell into hell. The present regent is just like these two emperors. He believes the words of the true word teachers, the Zen school, the precepts priests and observers of the precepts, and the Nembutsu priests, all of them enemies of the Lotus Sutra, and treats me, Nichiren, with animosity. Although I am lowly birth, I embrace the Lotus Sutra with Shakyamuni, many treasures, and the Buddhas of the 10 directions, Brahma, Chakra, the gods of the sun and the moon, the 4 heavenly kings, the dragon deities, the sun goddess, the great Bodhisattva Hachiman, protect and treasure. Just as people cherish their own eyes, as the heavenly gods revere Chakra, or as a mother loves her child. Therefore, all these Buddhas and gods will punish those who persecute the votary of the Lotus Sutra, even more severely than one would chastise an enemy of one's parents, or the ruler or than the ruler punishes rebels. Now you two are the late lay priest Jiro's son and daughter-in-law. It is perhaps because you are the son and daughter-in-law of so profoundly wise a man that, following in his footsteps, you not only believe in the Lotus Sutra, which the ruler of the country himself rejects, but also provide for the votary of the Lotus Sutra each year, bringing me offerings and traveling 1,000 ri to see me. Moreover, on the 13th anniversary of the death of your infant daughter, you erected a 16-foot wooden grave tablet with the 7 characters Nam Myoho Renge Kyo inscribed on it. When the north wind blows, it is said, fish in the southern sea who are touched by it will be released from their sufferings. And when the wind comes from the east, birds and deer in the western mountains who come in contact with it will escape from the realm of animals and be born in the inner court of the Tushita heaven. How much greater still will the blessings be of those human beings who rejoice at this tablet, touch it with their hands, or gaze upon it with their eyes. I believe that because of the benefit derived from you erecting this wooden tablet, your deceased parents must be illuminating the path to the Pure Land as brilliantly as the sun and moon in the heavens. Furthermore, you yourselves, their filial son and his wife, as well as your children, will live to be 120 in this existence. And after death, you will be with your parents in the Pure Land of Eagle Peak. You should consider this to be as certain as the fact that the moon is reflected in the clear water, or that a drum produces a sound when struck. Should you erect any wooden tablets in the future, be sure to have the Daimoku of the Lotus Sutra inscribed on them as well. Written at Mount Minobu, Nichiren, the 13th day of the 11th month of the 2nd year of Koan, 1279, cyclical sign Suchonoto Su. to the wife and lay priest Nakaoki. Okay, and so now let's go. That was the Gosho. And the Gosho was probably written in such a way that some of the things are difficult to comprehend as it relates to what is he really conveying. And that's the beautiful thing about being able to rely on President Ikeda and his mentors for the ability to have a broader understanding of what this means to us in this day and age and how it applies to our lives as believers in the law. Okay, so starting with page 52, because I've just read the whole Gosho. The lecture. It says, page 52, we are, and listen to what President Ikeda is saying, because he didn't just write this week. Okay, this was written a few years ago. We are in a time of great transition and change. The existing norms and values of modern day society are being called into question, and new perspectives and approaches are needed. But what should our foundation be? Nichiren Buddhism clearly asserts that it is respect for human dignity and the sanctity of life. The fundamental mission of religion lies in inspiring and encouraging people to protect the welfare of humanity, to value and nurture life, and to lead a more meaningful existence. Okay? So you can see right there, is that the basis of most of the religious beliefs and practices in the world today? No. It's all about embellishing their power, authority, and living in accordance with their doctrinal requirements.
Right.
It's not predicated on the fundamental mission of religion lies in inspiring and encouraging people to protect the welfare of humanity. What religion teaches that? None. They're all declaring what's going to happen when you die and what you got to do to prepare for that fact. That's what they're mostly about. They have nothing to do with now and life and living. Okay?
Right.
And he says to nurture life and to lead a more meaningful existence. Now, what is that really describing?
Living simple.
Yeah, but what is it describing? The fundamental mission of religion lies in inspiring, encouraging people to protect the welfare of humanity. That's to be the Buddha. To value and nurture life. That's to be the Buddha. And to lead a more meaningful existence. That's to be the Buddha in your present form. It's not a transition where you get a medal, okay, or are given a diploma. This comes from a self-motivated sense of mission and a vow that you take yourself, that you live up to regardless of what the consequences may be. It's that important to you. Nichiren Buddhism helps us bring forth the strength to deal with any difficulty we encounter in this troubled, strife-filled world. It is a teaching that enables us to accumulate indestructible treasures of the heart. People everywhere are turning their attention to the values taught in Nichiren Buddhism, where the potential for Buddhahood in human beings themselves, a state of infinite purity and strength, is the ultimate foundation. Our members tirelessly encourage and support others and demonstrate that all people inherently possess the power to overcome any adversity. All people have this Buddha nature that allows them to bring forth the power from their life. These efforts characterize the SGI's broad-ranging grassroots movement for human revolution, which shines as a brilliant source of inspiration and hope. Invigorating people's lives, second column, page 52. The eminent British historian Arnold J. Toynbee wrote in his foreword to the English edition of my book, The Human Revolution, Soka Gakkai has achieved an astonishing post-war resurrection, a spiritual achievement that matches the Japanese people's material achievement in the economic field. He continued, expressing his high expectations for our movement as an influence in the world at large. The post-war rise of Soka Gakkai is not solely the concern of the country in which it started. Already, Soka Gakkai is a world affair. Toynbee further recognized that the Soka Gakkai was carrying out a fundamental mission of religion, that of inspiring people to spiritual endeavor, which serves to invigorate not only their own lives, but society as a whole. He believed that this is precisely what religion must do in contemporary society. And what did he just describe there? That of inspiring people to spiritual endeavor, which serves to invigorate not only their own lives, but society as a whole. That's the attainment of Buddhahood in your present form and the achievement of Kosen Rufu as a bodhisattva of the earth. All right? Irrespective of the times, the way to transform the chaos and confusion of human society on a fundamental level lies in individuals cultivating their wisdom and strength so that they can create lives of happiness and victory. The spiritual revitalization of people is the key to achieving this, and in Nichiren's thought in life, we find a hope-filled philosophy and path of action that make this possible. So, what did he just say there? He says, irrespective of the times, the way to transform the chaos and confusion of human society on a fundamental level lies in being a Soka Gakkai member, doing Kosen Rufu with the organization, what is it? He's saying it lies in individuals cultivating their wisdom and strength. That's becoming the Buddha in your present form. For what purpose? So that they can get more? No. So that they can create lives of happiness and victory and be living examples to encourage others to follow in their path. This spiritual revitalization of the people, okay, not following a superior person that you rely on for your salvation, taking that responsibility on your own and being the Buddha in your present form, is the key to achieving this. And in Nichiren's thought in life, we find a hope-filled philosophy and path of action that makes this possible, that allows us to be that kind of mentor to others. Okay? Living in the latter day of the law, an age when people have lost sight of the enormous potential of the human being and society itself becomes increasingly dysfunctional, Nichiren risked his life to develop the potential for good, the positive qualities latent within all people. And just to requalify, what I was saying there was not anything against the Soka Gakkai. What I was saying is that Kosen Rufu happens from the actions of the individuals being Buddhas in their present form. It doesn't come from just blindly going to meetings, waiting through the process until it's over, going home, chanting flat Daimoku with no inspired intent to be the Buddha in your present form. And many people will go through their whole practice without ever trying to be the person that Daisaku Ikeda is describing here. And it won't happen unless you try.
Yes.
This will not happen because that's the natural course of things. Okay? This only occurs because you decide to take the teaching to heart, to believe it with your own life, and to live it as it teaches. That's what Daisaku Ikeda is saying over and over and over again. All right? So don't misunderstand the point I was trying to make a minute ago. It's about you doing it. You, bodhicitta, you taking action. Not about anything other than that, because you're the only thing that you control. Okay? First column, page 53. A religious revolution launched by the son of a commoner. Now I, Nichiren, am neither a resident of the capital, the center of the country, nor the son of a general on the frontiers. I am merely the son of a commoner from a remote province. However, for 27 years from the 28th day of the 4th month in the 5th year of Kensho until now, the 11th month of the 2nd year of Koan, I have not once retreated, but have continued to speak out all the more strongly to refute error in the realm of Buddhism, just as the moon waxes or the tide rises. At first, when I chanted the Daimoku, Nam-myoho Renge-kyo, those who saw me, met me, or heard me, covered their ears, glared at me with furious eyes, contorted their mouths, clenched their fists, and ground their teeth. Even my parents, brothers, teachers, and friends became my enemies. Top of second column, page 53. Nichiren wrote this letter on November 30th, 1279, while living at Mount Minobu. It is addressed to two of his followers on Sato Island, the younger lay priest Nakaoki and his wife. Nichiren was greatly indebted to Nakaoki's father, the deceased elder priest Nakaoko Nojiro. The father had offered his support and assistance to Nichiren during his exile on the island from October 1271 through March 1274. No doubt Nichiren was very happy to see the son's steadfast faith and the admirable efforts he was making as a Buddhist practitioner. In this letter, in addition to praising the sincere faith of the lay priest Nakaoki and his wife, Nichiren explains the importance of his own struggle, just as it will be important for all of you to be able to explain yours, as I try to explain mine, right? It's what we all do, as President Ikeda expresses his. We don't hide those things. We put them out there. To highlight the profound significance of that struggle, he begins by giving a short synopsis of how Buddhism was introduced to Japan and gained acceptance among the populace, citing references in various historical annals of the day, as you remember from me reading the Gosho. Describing Japan as it was before the arrival of Buddhism, he writes, the people neither knew of hell nor aspired to the Pure Land. Even with when death parted them from their parents or siblings, they had no idea of what would become of the deceased. They must have thought of death as something like the vanishing of dew or like the setting of the sun and the moon. In other words, they were unfamiliar with Buddhism, which taught that life is eternal, spanning the three existences of past, present, and future, and is governed by the law of cause and effect. They were at a loss as to how to deal with birth and death. So what did he just requalify there? What?
Eternal life.
Right. We don't have to worry about what happens with us when we die because we have Buddhism as a teaching to rely upon, and we have the ability to manifest the power in our present existence while we're alive to understand that that teaching is correct, and therefore the aspect of it that relates to death and going into ku and then coming out again is all in keeping with what we've already experienced. We don't have to worry or be afraid at the time that it comes to leave this world. Okay? We can have absolute confidence that what's going to happen is exactly what we think is going to happen because of everything that's already happened. Do you understand? Mm-hmm. All right. He says he then details how the arrival of Buddhism in Japan in the mid-6th century provoked much debate and resistance among the ruling officials of the day. Soon, however, there appeared a wise person who recognized the value of the Buddhist teachings. This was Prince Shotoku, the emperor's second son, who is described in the ancient chronicles of Japan. He is said to have unhesitatingly placed his faith in Shakyamuni Buddha, the original teacher of Buddhism, and recited the Lotus Sutra. His example, Nichiren tells us, was pivotal in the eventual spread of Buddhism throughout Japan. All right, and when it says original teacher, he's talking about the original teacher of Buddhism as it relates to the former, the middle, and the latter day of the law. The original teacher that I always refer to is not Shakyamuni, it's the Nam-myoho Renge-kyo, thus come one. Okay, so don't misunderstand what he's saying there. All right? It is often the case, first column 54, page 54, it is often the case that the free-soaring progressive spirit of a single individual can open up a whole new current of thought. So what did he just say there? It is often the case that the free-soaring, progressive spirit of a single individual can open up a whole new current of thought. What's he saying? You don't have to wait for anybody else. You don't have to rely on anybody else. What I'm talking about right here, you can do by yourself. You can do on your own. You can be the difference. Okay? You can do Kosen Rufu. You're a disciple of Nichiren. There's no separation between you and him. All right? By Nichiren's time at the start of the latter day of the law, 7 centuries after Buddhism's initial introduction to Japan, Buddhism had indeed spread throughout the land. But by this stage, it had split into various competing schools, with the Pure Land Nembutsu school predominant among the general populace. Shakyamuni Buddha and the Lotus Sutra were virtually all but forgotten. Nichiren appeared in the world at this juncture in order to restore the original spirit of Buddhism as the original teacher of Kuon-Ganjo. In this letter, he says that he is the son of a commoner born in a remote province far from the capital. The only way to effect fundamental change in society in the evil age of the latter day, okay, so what's he talking about there? He's talking about now. He's not talking about Nichiren's time. He's not talking about the time of this Gosho. He's talking about, as he proceeded at the beginning, we are now in a time of great transition and change. He's talking about now. The only way to effect fundamental change in society in the evil age of the latter day is through the inner transformation of the individuals who live in that society. So what did he just say? The only way to effect fundamental change in society is to live as a bodhisattva of the earth, attain Buddhahood in your present form, and accomplish Kosen Rufu as you have promised to do. That's what he just said. All right? It's up to you. You. Not everybody else. You. You. Right? Get it? Nichiren's declaration here is that he is the son of a commoner can be seen to express his fervent wish to invigorate the people and revive Buddhism's essential spirit by leading as an example in his struggle of inner transformation or human revolution. So what did he just say? He came to lead this teaching as the original mentor to teach all of his followers to become mentors through the personal example of their life in embracing his teaching and being one with him. All right? Of the same mind as Nichiren. As the son of a commoner, a person without power or influence, however, he was attacked and maligned by those connected to the secular powers and by priests whose false claims to religious authority he had exposed and denounced. People in general failed to understand Nichiren's wish to enable everyone to attain enlightenment. Some disregarded him as out of ignorance or indifference. Others, driven by envy or self-serving motives, openly resented and opposed him. And still others, spurred by malice and arrogance, harassed and persecuted him, just as they will you if you do what I'm talking about. In this letter, written in November 1279, just as Daisaku Ikeda has experienced. Okay, you want to know? I'm not talking about me or you. I'm talking. He's already. We can see it from the way this is always embraced. In this letter, written in November 1279, he looks back on the 27-year struggle he has waged to date, starting from the time he first chanted Nam-myoho Renge-kyo on April 28, 1253. He notes that in the intervening years, his teaching had come to spread widely throughout the country so that now 1/10 of the people in Japan chant only Nam-myoho Renge-kyo. He observes further, however, that his efforts had drawn uncommonly intense opposition and hostility. The Nembutsu school followers throughout the country in particular hated him as though he were their sworn enemy. Moreover, the attacks waged against him by those in power reached a crescendo in 1271 with the Tatsunokuchi persecution and subsequent Sato exile. Top of page 55, first column. When he states that 1 in 10 people in Japan have come to chant Nam-myoho Renge-kyo, we can assume that this includes both those who immediately accepted faith in the Lotus Sutra and those who initially opposed it. Nichiren's powerful conviction, unremitting efforts, and shining integrity deeply touched the lives of both those who were open and those who were negative towards his teachings, leading them to form a connection with the mystic law. What did he just say there? He just qualified the truth that the propagation of Nam-myoho Renge-kyo in the latter day isn't always about winning every conversation pertaining to Buddhism and the teaching of Nichiren. All right? Just by making it available to someone, even if they reject it, you have now helped them create a link and a connection to the law that can never be broken according to the teaching of Nichiren and Buddhism. Do you understand? Lifetime, once they have severed that, they are no longer a Buddha in theory. Stage 1 has now been surpassed. They will never be born again into stage 1. They will always be born into the realm where they're able to meet the law and then go on to see how far they can take it towards getting to the 6th stage. But you have saved everybody you've ever mentioned Nam-myoho Renge-kyo to, no matter whether they believed you, listened to you, or blew you off. Do you understand? He states, when 1 in 10 people in Japan have come to chant Nam-myoho Renge-kyo, we can assume that this includes both those who immediately accepted faith in the Lotus Sutra and those who initially opposed it. Nichiren's powerful conviction, unremitting efforts, and shining integrity deeply touched the lives of both those who were open and those who were negative towards his teachings, leading them to form a connection with the mystic law. And you can as well. That's what you're supposed to do. The law is spread by people. That's why. Next, he tells the lay priest Nakaoki and his wife that he fought tirelessly for the cause of people's happiness, never faltering in his commitment. For 27 years, I have not once retreated. First Soka Gakkai President Tanesaburo Makaguchi also appears to have found these words noteworthy, underscoring them in his copy of Nichiren's writings. Nichiren frequently describes his struggles. So he does so to clarify his role and function in terms of Buddhism. He goes to the trouble of explaining. And what is it? What is his role and function in terms of Buddhism? The original living example of what it is to attain Buddhahood in your present form. Okay? Does that mean you no longer have struggles? No. How do we know that? Because the original teacher taught us with his own life, through his own experiences, through his own life example. He says, Nichiren frequently describes his struggles. He does so to clarify his role in terms of Buddhism, the original teacher. He goes to the trouble of explaining the significance of these struggles, I feel, so that his followers can be absolutely confident that his teaching is correct when they experience the same thing. Do you understand? If Nichiren's teaching was always talking about slide right through, piece of cake, no problem, and then we have the shit constantly hitting the fan, we're going to go, what the hell? All right? But by virtue of his life, at least I don't have to go to Tatsunokuchi and roll the dice. Okay? Do your worst. Maybe you will. Okay? I don't know if I had the guts for that. But I know that's how I'm supposed to live. I know that's the kind of conviction I'm supposed to practice with, right? Why? Because Nichiren taught me that. Frankly. Okay? And the reason we understand it now is because of the Soka Gakkai presidents actually incorporating it into the faith and practice of their daily life. Okay? And that's why we're where we are right now with this video on at this very moment, reading from Daisaku Ikeda's encouragement. Okay? This is the whole process that all of us are a part of, and all of us have taken a vow to continue to the last moment of our lives. Don't forget that. He says, I feel so that his followers can be absolutely confident that his teaching is correct. Then they could strive alongside him with pride and develop the strong, unwavering faith needed to advance the Kosen Rufu. Why are they proud? They're proud because they know they're bodhisattvas of the earth. They're not judging their life based on what their paycheck is or about the absence of difficulty. That's not the determinant. Their pride comes from being mentors. Okay? To advance Kosen Rufu. His central message here is to have the pride and courageous spirit of a votary of the Lotus Sutra, to be of the same mind as Nichiren. Everybody's with me? All right, Nichiren, the votary of the Lotus Sutra, embraced the true spirit of Buddhism as articulated in that sutra and practiced in exact accord with the Buddhist teachings. Do not begrudge your life, absolute faith. Through such faithful practice, he came to embody in his own life the ultimate law for attaining Buddhahood, Nam-myoho Renge-kyo. The law or teaching is fundamental in Buddhism. It is not merely an abstraction existing somewhere separate from our actual practice or efforts. In fact, only when we as practitioners internalize and embody the law in our own beings does its power come vibrantly alive in reality. What is he just saying again? Only when we live as the same life as Nichiren are we able to reveal the power of Nam-myoho Renge-kyo as it truly exists in our lives, allowing us to become Buddhas in our present form. Only then can its unexcelled mystic functions enrich our lives and society, because this is all about Kosen Rufu. It's not our personal benefit. As Nichiren states, the law does not spread by itself. Because people propagate it, both people and the law are worthy of respect. So your pride comes from that respect, which is absolutely yours in living this kind of an endeavor in your personal life. In his propagation efforts, Nichiren did not just teach the mystic law through words or theory. Rather, he actively demonstrated its power through the example of his own conduct as one who believes in and practices the mystic law. Do you understand? Nichiren Buddhism does not exist apart from the real-life struggles for Kosen Rufu. Consequently, if we are to understand the essence of his teachings, it is important for us to practice with the same spirit as Nichiren, because otherwise you'll not be able to manifest that power. Okay, and in the absence of that power, you may have questions. All right, so if you can be of the same mind as Nichiren, you can experience everything that he experiences. You can experience everything Daisaku Ikeda is talking about here. Nothing is out of bounds for you to be able to embody in your own life, including Buddhahood. The mentor embodies and practices the mystic law. The disciples in turn strive to do likewise. Following the mentor's example and teachings, they continue to take action for Kosen-Rufu. This is the only way forward, Daisaku Ikeda says. This is the only way forward. The true transmission of Buddhism, top of page 56, resides in this living connection between mentor and disciple. That's the vessel constantly being filled from the one that preceded it. The transformative power of humanistic interaction and communication, however possibly due to the protection of the Lotus Sutra and the 10 demon daughters, or perhaps because of the heavenly gods, realize my innocence. This is again the Gosho. And although many of the Sado Islanders hated me, there was an old man called the lay priest Nakaoki no Jiro who befriended me. He was as wise as he was advanced in years, and he enjoyed robust health and commanded the esteem of the local people. Probably because this venerable man said of me, this priest can be no ordinary person. His sons did not strongly resent me. Since most of the other people were in the service of the retainers of the Nakaoki family, they too made no attempt to harm me on their own authority and carefully obeyed the government's instructions. Though water may be muddied, it will again become clear. Though the moon may hide behind the clouds, it will surely reappear. Similarly, in time, my innocence became apparent, and my predictions proved not to have been in vain. Perhaps on that account, although the members of the Hojo family and influential lords insisted that I should not be pardoned, I was finally released from my sentence of exile at the sole discretion of the lord of the province of Sagami and returned to Kamakura. Continuing the lecture on the second column of page 56. The powerful and influential feared the great changes Nichiren was setting in motion and sought to do away with him. Officials of the Kamakura military government effectively saw his exile to Sado as a death sentence. They were certain he would be killed by enemies there or otherwise starve to death. That was their whole aim in exiling him, Nichiren says. Nakaoki no Jiro, however, resided on Sado. This elderly lay priest staunchly protected Nichiren on the remote island where the Nembutsu faith was widely practiced, and many people viewed Nichiren with hatred and hostility. Nakaoki no Jiro was a community elder, as he was well respected by all as a person of good economic and social standing and fine character. As such, his declaration that Nichiren was no ordinary person completely transformed the environment. Nakaoki no Jiro's family and servants followed his wishes and made no attempt to harm Nichiren in any way. This was none other than the workings of the protective functions of the universe, manifesting in the actions of Naoki no Jiro. What I would like to note here is Nakaoki no Jiro's humanity. Certainly because of his age and the respect he received from his personal qualities, the elder Nakaoki appears to have been quite influential in his community. But even more impressive to me than his social standing is the fact that he felt an immediate, natural sympathy with Nichiren, accurately discerning his character and integrity. Naturally, Nakaoki no Jiro must have known how the other Sado residents criticized and slandered Nichiren. We can assume that he probably met Nichiren in person, apprehended his exemplary character, and realized that there must be a deeper reason why such an outstanding individual was being persecuted. It seems the elder Nakaoki intuitively understood the depth of Nichiren's commitment to his struggle for the happiness and welfare of the people. He sensed that the government's assertions that Nichiren was an enemy were false. As a trusted and respected individual himself, Nakaoki most likely could fully appreciate Nichiren's genuine sincerity and unwavering commitment to his cause. Goodness calling forth goodness. At the bottom of first column, page 57. In addition to Nakaoki Nojiro, many other Sato residents became followers and supporters of Nichiren after meeting him. Among them, Abutsubo and his wife, Senichi, and the lay priest and lay nun of Ko. Nothing leaves a greater impression than a person's genuine humanity. During Nichiren's earlier exile in Izu, as well, the local residents he met always ended up becoming his friends. In accord with the principle of the Buddha nature manifesting itself from within and bringing forth protection from without, Nichiren's inner goodness manifested itself in his actions. His actions then struck a chord in the hearts of the people he met, drawing forth their own inherent goodness. As much as Nichiren strove to win the trust of those he met, though he never abandoned his beliefs in the process as much as Nichiren strove to win the trust of those he met, though, he never abandoned his beliefs in the process or compromised his integrity. Armed with the power of words, Nichiren boldly refuted authoritarian teachings that oppressed and brought misery to the people. He aspired for a world where people would work together for peace and for the sake of those who were suffering, a world where everyone would strive together in a spirit of mutual cooperation and draw forth each other's positive qualities. In Nichiren Buddhism, the true spirit of refutation and the true spirit of tolerance are actually two sides of the same coin. Tolerance that condones inhumanity and injustice is actually no more than callousness. Similarly, refutation that proceeds without respect for the inherent humanity of one's opponent is just self-righteousness. Nichiren always acted for the sake of the law and for people's happiness. As a result, wise, good-hearted individuals who sympathized with his aims always appeared in his environment. What did that just say? What was he just really making clear there that's important for everybody to understand? We can be very confident and have tremendous conviction in the truth of the teaching that we're trying to convey to others. But if we ever do so from a perspective of authority or a lack of respect for that individual, or to prove that we know more than them, if we lose sight of the true reason why we do shakabuku, because that's what he's talking about. Armed with the power of words, Nichiren boldly refuted authoritarian teachings that opposed and brought misery to people. He aspired for a new world where people would work together for peace and for the sake of those who were suffering, a world where everyone would strive together in a spirit of mutual cooperation and draw forth each other's positive qualities. In Nichiren Buddhism, the true spirit of refutation, okay, which is shakabuku, all right, and the true spirit of tolerance are actually two sides of the same coin. There is no difference between them if you have correct understanding, because what this is basically saying is that when we are talking to others, just as you can see in Nichiren's writings, there are times when we come straight out and we're very, very frontal in what we're trying to convey, and there are other times where we have compassion and we understand people have limitations in terms of resource. Yep. And so we don't try and beat them over the head with, I'm right, you're wrong. We try and take them a step closer to the truth in a way that they'll hold on to it rather than reject it. Do you understand? And this is something that President Ikeda does continuously. He's writing that way right now. Okay? And that's really not, that's really a spirit of Buddhism that he has brought into the fore, because President Toda was shakabuku. He wasn't really trying to reach out into the community of non-believers. He was out to convert everyone, all right? Whereas President Ikeda has dealt with the reality of dealing in the 21st century with world leaders, with understanding that Nichiren Buddhism isn't the predominant religion in the world itself at this point in time, and what it will really take as a bridge mechanism of understanding and compassion for others, respect for others, before they could ever respect or understand what we're trying to say. So that's what he just conveyed. In Nichiren Buddhism, the true spirit of refutation, shakabuku, and the true spirit of tolerance, shoju, okay, are actually two sides of the same coin. It's all about wisdom and having the Buddha nature that allow you to manifest that wisdom correctly. Tolerance that condones humanity and injustice is actually no more than callousness. So if you're so tolerant that you blow off and you don't say anything, things that you can see overtly need to be addressed as being incorrect, that's not what he's talking about. That's when refutation really needs to be applied. But he's saying at the same time, similarly, refutation that precedes, you go ahead and you start doing shakabuku without any real respect for the person's inherent humanity that you're trying to convey or talk to, you're just arguing for the sake of proving that you're right. You're not arguing for the sake of Kosen Rufu. All right? He's saying, have the wisdom to perceive that difference. It's very important that you be able to if you're going to be successful in what you're trying to do, which is what he's suggesting we do. Nichiren's, and you can see in Nichiren's own writings, where he cut people slack. He didn't necessarily slap them in the face, every single one. It depended on who he was talking to. And what he could see was the merit of what was needed for that person at that moment, right? You must also try to manifest that same kind of wisdom. And it's there if you're the Buddha, frankly speaking. Nichiren always acted for the sake of the law and for people's happiness, not for I'm right and you're wrong. Okay? That's animality.
Right.
As a result, wise, good-hearted individuals who sympathized with his aims always appeared in his environment. Why? Because he didn't drive them away. Through his wisdom, they were able to be attracted to him whether they agreed with him or not initially. And eventually, through his example, they were won over. Okay? That's how we're supposed to be. This also attests to how a person's character and humanity can touch the lives of many others. Kosen Rufu is the spreading of ties of friendship and trust. Expanding positive human ties is the essence of our efforts to further Kosen Rufu. So you understand what I was saying, right? You understand what President Ikeda was saying, right? In terms of our practice, if I don't finish this, there's only going to be like 2 pages left. So I'm going to go ahead and go through the whole thing.
Okay.
In terms of our practice as SGI members, it means being sincere and respectful in our dealings with others. Sincere, in other words, we're doing this for the right reason, showing the utmost respect and care for each of our family members, friends, and acquaintances. Okay, so we don't have to go to war with our family members over our religious beliefs. We lead by example. We can have tolerant, respectful conversations and not give an inch as it relates to our convictions and actually win people over by the strength of those convictions. I saw it happen with my family, okay, just this past month. All right, strictly, they couldn't touch us. Frankly speaking, I'm not being arrogant. I'm saying view the behaviors. We were exemplary individuals in our behavior, all right? Based on understanding the way we're supposed to be, based on the teaching. In terms of our practice as SGI members, it means being sincere and respectful in our dealings with others, showing the utmost respect and care for each of our family members, friends, and acquaintances. Truly respecting and valuing each individual is the practice of the Lotus Sutra, the teaching of universal enlightenment. It is the very heart of the practice taught by Shakyamuni Buddha. An ever-growing network of trust and respect is the image of Kosen Rufu. The beneficial power of the mystic law that guarantees the enlightenment of all people. Now you two are the late priest Jiro's son and daughter-in-law. It is perhaps because you are the son and daughter-in-law of so profoundly wise a man that following in his footsteps you not only believe in the Lotus Sutra, which the ruler of the country himself rejects, but also provide for the votary of the Lotus Sutra each year, bringing me offerings and traveling 1,000 ri to see me. Moreover, on the 13th anniversary of the death of your infant daughter, you erected a 16-foot wooden grave tablet with the 7 characters Nam-myoho Renge-kyo inscribed on it. With the north wind, when the north wind blows and brushes past the 7 characters, it is said, fish in the southern sea who are touched by it will be released from their sufferings. And when the wind comes from the east and brushes past the 7 characters, birds and deer in the western mountains who come in contact with it will escape from the realm of animals and be born in the inner court of the Tushita heaven. How much greater still will the blessings of those human beings who rejoice at this tablet, touch it with their hands, or gaze upon it with their eyes. I believe that because of the benefit derived from you erecting this wooden tablet, your deceased parents must be illuminating the path to the Pure Land as brilliantly as would the sun and moon in the heavens. Furthermore, you yourselves are filial son and his their filial son and his wife, as well as your children, will live to be 120 in this existence, and after death you will be with your parents in the pure land of Eagle Peak. You should consider this to be as certain as the fact that the moon is reflected in clear water, or that a drum produces a sound when struck. Should you erect any wooden grave tablets in the future, be sure to have the Daimoku of the Lotus Sutra inscribed on them as well. Would you give me a tissue, please? Pardon me. Thank you. Pardon me as well. Okay, so continuing all the way to the end here on from top of page 59. This is all very important. This is like the great conclusion of this lecture. In this section, Nichiren teaches the lay priest Nakaoki and his wife, who, following in the late Nakaoki Nojiro's footsteps, embraced faith in the mystic law, that the power of Nam-myoho Renge-kyo can positively benefit both present and future existences. He praises them as the son and daughter-in-law of a very wise man, and as exemplary individuals in their own right, particularly because they continue to practice the Lotus Sutra, which the nation's ruler consistently rejects. He further expresses his deep gratitude to them for traveling the long distance from Sato to Mount Minobu many times to visit him and bring him offerings. He also notes that the couple inscribed the 7 characters of Nam-myoho Renge-kyo on the 16-foot memorial tablet for the 13th anniversary of their infant daughter's death. Here, he is emphasizing above all the beneficial power of Nam-myoho Renge-kyo. This is also underscored by the fact that at the conclusion of the letter he writes, should you erect any wooden grave tablets in the future, be sure to have the Daimoku of the Lotus Sutra inscribed on them as well. He speaks of the far-reaching beneficial power of Nam-myoho Renge-kyo. He assures his 2 followers that it will not only guide the deceased on the path to Buddhahood, but also ensure that they, the individuals who made the offering of the Daimoku, will be able to live as long as 120. And that's figurative. This latter reference to a lifespan of 120 years simply indicates, no doubt, enjoying a long, healthy, fulfilling life, because it's actually from the sense in Japanese history that the maximum age anybody could live to was 120. So it's like living as long as a human can live. Enabling us to live out our lives to the fullest is the essential purpose of our Buddhist faith and practice. Upholding the mystic law as long as we live and leading the best life possible, there can be no more satisfying or fulfilling existence than this. So he's saying it's not about the number of years. It's that quality of life that you live and that you leave as an example for others to try to emulate. Nichiren also states that, second column, page 59, also states that through the benefit of faith in the mystic law, the lay priest Nakaoki and his wife will be reunited with their parents in the pure land of Eagle Peak. So now this is the part that for all of us that have had anyone that's passed. Listen to what he's saying here. Nichiren also states that through the benefit of faith in the mystic law, so it's required faith in the mystic law, the lay priest Nakaoki and his wife will be reunited with their parents in the pure land of Eagle Peak. In other writings as well, he assures his followers that family members linked by the mystic law will be together throughout eternity in the deepest dimension of life, for instance, which is karma, which is dependent origination. For instance, he writes, without fail, both mother and child will go to the pure land of Eagle Peak. At that time, how joyful your meeting will be, how joyful it will be. And if anything should happen to you, just as the moon emerges to shine in the dark night, so the 5 characters of Myoho Renge-kyo will appear as a moon for you. Be convinced that Shakyamuni Buddha, the Buddhas of the 10 directions, and the sun who preceded you in death will appear in this moon. And if all of you nurture the same seeds of Myoho Renge-kyo in your hearts, then you will be reborn together in the same land of Myoho Renge-kyo. When the 3 of you, mother, father, and child, are reunited there face to face, how great your joy will be. So there's a promise made. Only your faith can take you there. Okay? If we embrace our mission, and in conclusion here, if we embrace our mission as bodhisattvas of the earth and dedicate our lives to Kosen Rufu, we will be able to manifest the life state of Buddhahood in this existence and pass into death without fear. Because you don't be afraid of death if you're the Buddha. Whereupon we can dwell in the world of Buddhahood of the universe, often referred to in Nichiren Buddhism as the Pure Land of Eagle Peak. It represents the eternal home of life itself. The original state is what he's talking about. The eternal realm of comrades of the mystic law from time without beginning, Kuanganjo. Here is in the deepest dimension of life, in the deepest dimension of life, the inseparability of all things, that thing. Non-substantiality, right? Ku. We can be rejoined with our deceased family, loved ones, friends, and fellow members. The expression going to the Pure Land of Eagle Peak, however, does not mean traveling to some distant, otherworldly paradise like the Pure Land of Perfect Bliss taught in the Nimbutsu school. It simply means that our lives merge with the Buddhahood of the eternal, timeless universe, entering an utterly free and untrammeled state. Okay? That's how it's described by Nichiren. That's how it's described in the teachings. At our own choosing, with this Buddhahood secure within us, we can be reborn together with our teacher and comrades in faith in the troubled world once more, there to lead other suffering living beings to enlightenment. And that is the teaching. We remanifest when we want to. We go to Ku for as long as we want to. We only rest for as long as we want to. Okay? If you want true eternal life, attain Buddhahood in your present form. Because if you want, you can come right back immediately. You can come back not in 15 lifetimes, 6 generations down the road from your family. You can be reborn as your son's child. Okay? There's nothing that keeps that from occurring, according to Buddhism, other than you deciding you want to stay there longer. All right? So he's saying, the aim of our Buddhist practice is, of course, to become happy in this existence, but we also aim to attain a state of inner peace and tranquility that is indestructible across the 3 existences of past, present, and future, eternal Buddhahood, right? That's what the 6th stage is all about. But that also comes from attaining Buddhahood in your present form. It is important, therefore, that we continue our joyful, vibrant efforts here and now to advance the movement for Kosen Rufu based on the mystic law, striving for the happiness of ourselves and others and the security and peace of society. We need to firmly establish the state of Buddhahood within our own lives. Then, wherever we are, will be the pure land of the land of tranquil light, transcending life and death. In this letter, Nichiren assures the lay priest Nakaoki and his wife that, though through their sincere commitment to faith, they will be able to reach the Pure Land of Eagle Peak, namely, attain the vast and boundless state of Buddhahood. He writes, you should consider this to be as certain as the fact that the moon is reflected in clear water or that a drum produces a sound when struck. I can well imagine how inspired they must have been by his confidence. I can see them deepening their resolve to follow in the footsteps of the late Nakaoki no Jiro, devoting themselves even more sincerely to the path of mentor and disciple, and giving Nichiren their wholehearted support. Many followers who uphold the teachings of Nichiren and his designated successor, Nikko Shonin, continued to emerge on Sado Island in subsequent years. Needless to say, those disciples who had striven alongside Nichiren during his lifetime opened the way for the development of this community of faith. The end. Building a humanistic network based on genuine respect for others. This letter portrays the strengthening of the mentor-disciple bond shared by Nichiren and 2 generations of Nakaokis living on Sado Island. Nichiren formed positive ties with many people in areas throughout Japan, followers and non-followers alike, ties based on the Lotus Sutra. Forging and expanding such life-affirming connections is achieved through believing in the Buddha nature of oneself and others and respecting all people, which is the ultimate essence of our Buddhist practice. Positive human connections and the mentor-disciple relationship are indispensable in guiding people to enlightenment in the latter day of the law. By respecting others, we have built a network dedicated to good, a truly humanistic alliance. Its growth has contributed tremendously to bringing forth people's goodness and humanity. This ripple effect of one person positively inspiring another can help elevate the spiritual state of people as a whole, change society for the better, bring peace and security to the land, and ultimately transform the destiny of all humankind. Kosen Rufu. Mr. Makaguchi discussed the process of elevating our humanity as a shift from a dependent life. This is great. Listen to this. Mr. Makaguchi discussed the process of elevating our humanity as a shift from a dependent life to an independent life, and finally to a contributive life. He hoped to see each individual experience this evolution from dependence to independence and then to contribution. The last, a life in which we strive for the happiness of ourselves and others. That's Buddha. Religion should evolve in a similar manner, moving away from religion that teaches dependence to religion that teaches independence, and finally to religion that teaches contribution or service to the welfare of all people. Humanity today desperately needs a philosophy that promotes positive ties to foster people's innate goodness. Second, Soka Gakkai President Josei Toda often said that as materialistic civilization reaches a deadlock, religion would play a growing role as a fundamental basis for human happiness. Neither abstract theories, superstitions, nor mere moral schooling would be effective. Only a living religion or philosophy would do, he asserted. We need a teaching or philosophy that is an active and integral part of our lives. He proclaimed that the times call for Nichiren Buddhism's teaching of human revolution or personal inner transformation. The focus will increasingly be on whether a philosophy spiritually empowers us or weakens us, whether it fosters our innate good or innate negativity, whether it promotes wisdom or ignorance. People are longing for a practical humanistic philosophy that will enable them to lead good lives. I assert that a philosophy based on a spirit of fundamental respect for all people and one that fosters unity and cooperation, building a network of compassion, courage, and wisdom, can create genuine positive value for humanity in the 21st century. And why does he say I assert? Because this is Daisaku Ikeda's teaching. Unless we establish a solid network of people united in the supreme cause of good, that is the happiness of all humanity, then selfishness and division will continue and the world will remain shrouded in the darkness of confusion and chaos. The ultimate power resides within us, human beings. We have the power to stand up for the happiness of humanity. We have the power to believe in and create a bright, hope-filled tomorrow. More and more people around the world are seeking the philosophy of Nichiren Buddhism, the essence of the Lotus Sutra, which draws forth the supremely noble power of the human being. As SGI members, everything comes down to our behavior and actions as individuals who uphold the mystic law. Today, leading figures around the globe are expectantly watching our efforts to share a truly universal teaching of humanism with people everywhere. Our movement has only just begun. Thank you.
Thank you.
See you next week.
Thank you.